Okay. Review of shaded version, section 1.4 check-in. Let's begin. Okay. 365 days in a year doesn't mean that's necessarily the period. So never assume that. Okay. So I have an average daily maximum temperature, Gabriella Island, following a sinusoidal pattern. Sinusoidal can be sine or cosine. In this particular question, I'm asking for cosine. Okay. So we have the highest temperature, that's a y value, occurring on this day. So that means that I've got a maximum point at 217.28.8. Okay. Then I have the lowest temperature, that's a minimum, 1.4 on January 3rd. So minimum point, third day, 1.4. Okay, so from that max and min, I can find everything I need to know in my graph. Okay, so let's start with my A and D. A and D values are y values. So A is just equal to max minus the min divided by 2. D is max plus min divided by 2. Okay, so for my A value, I've got my maximum point minus my minimum point, all divided by 2. And then for my D value, I just add those two together. Okay, good to that point? I just plug it into my calculator. Okay, so 28.8, take away 1.4, divide by 2, makes my A value 13.7. My D value, add those together, is 15.1. Okay, that looks right so far? Okay. My B value is tied to my period. So if I know my B and my C value are X values, okay, A and D are Y values. Okay, so for my X values, if I know the time it takes to go from a min to a max, that's half of my period. Okay, so I know that half of my period is going to be 217 take away 3. Half of my period is 214. So a whole period is just double that, which is 428. Okay, so that's the first part of the question. So number 1, 428. Okay. So the B value, word problems, I always use radian. 2 pi divided by my period. Take pi out, 2 over 428 in lowest terms is going to be pi, put pi back, over 214. So I've got my B value, my A, my D. Now I just want to figure out my C value. So because I'm talking about cosine, when A is positive, cosine starts at a max. When A is negative, cos starts at a min. Look at your points. Which one is closer to the y-axis, the max point or the min point? The min, right, because it has a lower x value. So this is my starting point. So C is going to be 3, and I'm going to make A negative, so vertical reflection. Okay, so vertical reflection, so I'm starting at a min because the min starting point is closer to the y-axis than the max point all the way over at 217. So put it all together, here's my equation. Y equals to negative 13.7 cosine of B, which is pi over 214. Okay, then my B value is pi over 214 times x minus my shift, which we said was 3. Minus 3, horizontal lines, we're going to the right, so it's minus 3. Close my brackets, and then plus my D value of 15.1. I just squished it in. Okay, so now that I have my equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into my y equals, because that's what I need for questions number 2 and 3. Okay, so for that, we'll put this into the calculator. Let's adjust our window setting. So I've already put it into my calculator into y1, cosine equation there. Okay, let's talk about our windows. We know our period is 428, so I went just a little bit above that to 430, up by, you could do anything, I just chose 40. Okay, my maximum in the question, what was my maximum? 28.8. So my maximum should definitely include that, which I haven't. So we'll go down here and we'll make it maybe 30. You always want to see 0. I want to see where the origin is, okay? I'm in radian mode, and so I hit graph to see what my graph will look like. Okay, so there's my graph. Now, in question number 2, it says, the expected maximum temperature on March 25th, the 84th day of the year. That's an X value. So if I have a graph to figure out my Y value that goes with that, I hit trace, and then I go 84, and then press enter. And there is my max temperature. And so I said to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to round 9.9996 to 10.0. Okay, so I'll put that over here. So this would be 10.0. So to the nearest tenth, include the 0.0. So again, what I did is I did trace of 84, and then I got my corresponding Y value. Okay, and the next one says the number of days in 1 year to the nearest whole number, the temperature is greater than 19 degrees. So greater than 19 degrees, that's a Y value. So in Y1, I have my cosine equation. In Y2, I'm going to put in 19, and I'm going to find out where do they intersect. Okay, and it's going to be a range of values because I want to know how many days it's above 19. Y1 is the equation, the cosine equation that we just came up with. Y2, I'm going to put in 19 because it's 19 days. Yeah, and then I'm going to find the intersection. Okay, so into my calculator, go into Y equals, and then I'll put in 19 and hit graph. Okay, so you can see like above that red line is when it's above 19 degrees. So I just have to figure out the 2 different times. So second trace, option number 5, and I'm going to find the furthest point first. So I just toggle over so I'm closest to that one and press enter 3 times. Okay, so the second time is going to be, holy slow, there we go, 304. So I'm going to take that out to my main screen so I don't have to write it down, and I press my X key and it calls up that X that I just calculated. Okay, let's do it again and find the first time, and then I just subtract them to know that how long it is above that. So intersect again, down arrow, and I go over, and I just want to go closer to the other side. I don't have to go right there, as long as I'm closer to the first point than the second point. And then I press enter 3 times. And there, oh, it's a little slow, there we go. There's my second time, or technically first time. So I go out to my main screen, hit X to pull up that one, and now I just want to know the distance between the 2. So all I do is I subtract. So I'll go up here and grab this one, press enter, and then subtract, go up here and grab this one and press enter. Okay, now, if I had asked you for the complete number of days, you would round down. Even if that was 0.999, you would say 174 days. But this question says the number of days in 1 year to the nearest whole number. So they're telling you to round to the nearest whole number. So in this one here, I would say 175. Okay, so just be really careful on how they tell you to round. So rounding to the nearest whole number, different than the whole number of days. So the answer to that would be 175.